welcome to Pepsi Tailgate Central. I'm Ashlyn Tovar, and I'm here with Ken Tyler and Denver Diefenbach, and today we'll be talking about the opposing Valdosta State Blazers. One of the keys to the season so far for Valdosta State tonight was that they lost the last 3 games after starting off ranked number 1 overall. Something else to keep in mind is that they have a senior-heavy offense. We will go more in depth on the Blazers when we come back from this short break.
There is a feeling that goes beyond the boundaries of the campus at Texas A&M University Kingsville. A shared sense of pride makes us more than a school. It makes us a nation. The Javelina Nation is a bond that unites all students, faculty, fans, and alumni who have been touched by the oldest, most respected university in South Texas. It's the feeling of knowing you're a part of something larger than yourself. So unite, Javelina Nation. Together there is nothing we cannot do.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. Those we use all the time with hardly a thought. Those that are silently standing by to save our lives. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere we go. Many mobile devices will now bring you wireless emergency alerts, real-time information directly from local sources you know and trust. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know wherever you are.
I'm one unlucky guy. The chance of being involved in a robbery is 1 in 757. The chances of being struck by lightning 1 in 750,000.
Please fasten your seatbelts for unexpected turbulence.
The chances of being a victim in an airline crash 1 in 29 million. Hey, could I get some peanuts? The chances of being involved in a car crash are far greater than lightning strikes and plane crashes. And if you are texting while driving, your risk of crash increases 23 times. Now, I may be an unlucky guy, but I don't have to be part of that statistic, and neither do you. Drive responsibly.
Hi, and welcome back to Pepsi Tailgate Central. We mentioned earlier about their senior-heavy offense. What really drives this offense?
Well, the biggest thing for this offense this week is going to be the passing game. You know, we've seen these guys really run the ball well, but they also throw the ball really, really well. It's attributed to their 2 big guys on the outside. Cedric O'Neal is one of their running backs, but he also catches the ball really well out of the backfield. The biggest guys that you have to look for on the outside are going to be Sontavious Jones. He's got 51 receptions on the year for 733 yards. That's just a huge number for this for a conference like the GSC that has really good defenders. But 13 touchdowns, 69-yard long. He's going to be one of the biggest playmakers on the outside. But the thing you have to look for is Willie Downs, who's on the other side of Jones. But he's going to make about the same amount of plays. He has 32 receptions, which is just a little bit less, but he has 487 yards, 3 touchdowns, 42-yard long, which means that he's more of a possession guy. And the thing really solidifying that is going to be the 15-yard average that he carries, which, I mean, that's something key for a guy in the backfield like Cochran, who's going to run this offense. Cochran's a guy that moved from University of Oklahoma and came into Valdosta State after playing a year of junior college ball, but he's going to be the rock that they lean on tonight. He's got 139 completions on 245 attempts, 13 touchdowns, 1,538 yards. So he's going to be the really big playmaker for these guys in the passing game. He's got to get the ball out to these guys and let them really do the work. He's going to be pressured by this Javelina offensive line, but he's gotten the ball out of his hand quick, and he's proven that over the last couple weeks. Even though they have lost those 3 games, he's been the guy that's really progressed. I mean, he does have those 10 picks on the year, but that we could attribute that to a lot of different things. You know, he's been hurt a little bit here and there, but he is a senior, and he's got to perform tonight.
Yeah, Ken, and Ashlyn, as you said, it is a senior-led offense in a sense of Cochran, who you just talked about, is a senior. He's on all kinds of different parts of breaking records in their career there. He's been there for 3 years, but he's been a very valuable asset to that offense. And also the receivers you named with Centavious Jones and Downs and Lewis, Jones, as well as Cochran were all first team all conference last year on their way to that national championship they won. So all senior led on that front right there. and just a great passing core.
Yeah,
Correct.
definitely.
Right, yeah, Denver, you know, we have talked about them having all of these seniors and returners and winning the championship last year, but this year we have seen them with a 5-4 record. Looking at what we can attribute this to, you take a look at the Gulf South Conference's all GSC team last year, and 4 offensive linemen were on the first team. 4. All seniors. What does this say about the offensive line this season? I think it's the main reason these Blazers have the record they have.
Yeah, no, definitely that's the biggest thing you can attribute this record to, is the fact that they did lose all 5 of their starting offensive line last year. All were seniors. Nobody got drafted, but they were all huge, big pieces to that puzzle that you call an offense. And all these guys, I mean, they're young, but they are inexperienced. They're not young, but they are inexperienced. They're all juniors. Every offensive lineman is a junior, but it's that inexperience that you look at that really attributes to them not being able to move the ball as effectively as they did last year. And the biggest thing is, giving Cochran time. This is an offense that's really based out of being able to throw the ball and really working off of the run game as kind of a secondary, especially when you have guys like Jones and Downs on the outside. That's going to be their biggest thing, is really moving the ball effectively through the air and then working off of that running game.
Yeah, I strongly agree, Ashland. That was a great point. Ken, good follow-up. I mean, this lineman core, that's a big change, to have 5 senior linemen last year. 4 of those, 4 in a conference such as the Gulf South Conference, 4 of them become all conference. And so, as you said, Ken, inexperience is a key word there. They've got all juniors this year on the line there, all guys that didn't get to play as much last year because they were behind a core such as that. So that is going to be, I think, a big thing that's will affect them tonight and has affected them all season. To have a wide receiving core that they've had come back this year, as well as Cochran. But you look at Cochran's numbers, and they're just not what they were last year. And also the record, 5-4. I mean, they play the same teams they played last year, in conference that they defeated, with guys such as Cochran, Jones, Downs, and these guys. So that has been a big part of the reason they're having the year they're having this year. I mean, they're having a decent season, but not anywhere close to championship winning season that they had last year, having the playmakers they have. So yeah, that offensive line has been a humongous factor. But something else that kind of comes along with young, but not exactly inexperienced, is their running backs. Ken mentioned one earlier, Cedric O'Neal. Cedric O'Neal was the freshman player of the year of that conference last season. The freshman has 808 yards with 5 touchdowns this season. I mean, he runs with some authority, and I mean, he's great, and he's learning to run behind these new linemen. And also complimenting him is another sophomore, Austin Scott. Austin Scott, only 200 yards less rushing and half the attempts, also has 5 touchdowns. Both these running backs run about 7.3 yards per carry. So when they do run the ball, they're getting some carries. So these linemen are good at this running game and allowing these younger running backs to explode out and get some good runs. It's just it hasn't quite been there to create that pocket for the passing, which is another reason why freshman Caleb Nobles, who we'll probably see tonight, he's played in 9 of the games, every game so far he's been a part of, and it's because we've seen this injury with Cochran, not being able to form that pocket like they formed last year, and allowing Nobles, a freshman who's thrown for half the yards as Cochran, but just the same amount of touchdowns, 11 touchdowns, which is 1 less than Cochran. So they've got some young guys, and this offensive lineman has been a big part of this. Lack of experience is a key word, as you said earlier.
No, I mean, the biggest thing between these 2 running backs has really been the amount of carries they've gotten. Cedric O'Neal, 110 carries to Austin Scott's 82. Scott's more of the guy that is going to be the power back. He's a little bit thicker, he's a little heavier, so he's going to have more of the brute carries down on the goal line, somewhere, some stuff like that. But he's got the big play of the year. He has 72-yard run for a touchdown, and that's one of his 5. But he's got around 7.4, which it's a pretty good one. But you can really see that he is the bruiser of the group. O'Neal's going to be more of the speed back. He's going to get out in space, and both of these guys out in space are very good. They do have some moves. They can really make some of these secondary guys miss. But the biggest thing is going to be getting the ball to these guys. And Cochran and Nobles, both very good rushers in their own right. Cochran alone has rushed for 123 yards. He's gained that, but he's lost 84 yards, which you can call that sacks. And design quarterback runs. So it's kind of pick your poison here. Both of these guys, Cochran, has 2 touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, but we don't really know where those came from in the year. But they could have been shorter runs, they could have been sneaks, we don't really know. But his longest is 12 yards. Nobles, though, his longest is 28, so he does have some wheels on him. He can move a little bit.
Right. And that's all we have time for right now. We're going to take our first commercial break. We'll be right back with Pepsi Tailgate Central.
There is a feeling that goes beyond the boundaries of the campus at Texas A&M University Kingsville. A shared sense of pride makes us more than a school. It makes us a nation. The Javelina Nation is a bond that unites all students, faculty, fans, and alumni who have been touched by the oldest, most respected university in South Texas. It's the feeling of knowing you're a part of something larger than yourself. So unite, Javelina Nation. Together there is nothing we cannot do.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. Those we use all the time with hardly a thought. Those that are silently standing by to save our lives. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere we go. Many mobile devices will now bring you wireless emergency alerts, real-time information directly from local sources you know and trust. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know wherever you are.
Hi, and welcome back to Pepsi Tailgate Central. We just talked about their offense, but now moving to the other side of the ball, their defense just hasn't been what it has been last year. They give up over 30 points per game and over 430 yards per game, and 285 of those coming through the air. They lost some key players last year, but they do have some key returners. Denver, what has been the key so far to their defense?
Well, the defense, like you said, hasn't been what it's been. They did lose some key guys last year, but they do have one, just stud. That's really been a humongous part, and that's Chris Pope. He's a part of this linebacking crew, which, to answer that question, has been the key to this defense. But Chris Pope already has 90 tackles this year. Just last game, that put him on top of the career tackles leader for Valdosta State. So, kudos to him for doing that, really having a knack for the ball and making good reads. And looking to his left and to his right, also are Jeremy Grable and Justin Williams. Both these guys have 74 and 73 tackles respectively, and 7 tackles for loss for Justin Williams. So this linebacking crew really has a knack for making good reads, and credit the defensive coordinator also for really having some timely blitzes to put some pressure on quarterbacks to allow them to get these tackles for losses and really make things happen.
Yeah, and the biggest thing with this linebacking core is going to be their speed. I mean, you talk about Chris Pope, the guy has some speed on him. He can really run, and he plays sideline to sideline as well as Grable. Grable really has the ability to get out into space and make some good open field tackles, and that's going to be the biggest difference tonight with the speed that the Javelinas do have in their running backs and wide receivers. So we'll see what he can do, but that's going to be their big thing. Those guys, and especially in this defense that they run, the 4-3 is going to be. It's those guys. Those guys really make a huge impact on the way that the game is played on the defensive side of the ball for Valdosta State. The Blazers, they run this kind of old school scheme of offense against the new school scheme of, they run an old school scheme of defense against a new school scheme of offense. And they've done a good job so far, but 5 wins is kind of not really what they were looking for coming into this year.
As well as 285 yards in the air.
And going through the air, the secondary hasn't really picked it up like they hoped they would. But these guys have done a really good job in that secondary. They make all the calls, they make all the adjustments, and it's attributed to them what this team's done.
Right, and sounds like they have some strong players in the second level with these linebackers, but we look and they have only 18 sacks of the season. What does it say about their defensive line?
Well, their defensive line is pretty undersized compared to what it was last year. Last year they were sitting around 300 pounds in the middle and somewhere around 250 on the outside in the defensive ends. But, they still do get some sacks. They are last in the GSC in sacks at this point in time. But, Lawrence Virgil, who only has 44 tackles on the year, he's not really played up to what he did last year. He was a very good player for him last year. But he does have 7.5 tackles for a loss, which leads the team, and he does lead the team in sacks with 3.5. They've just had a little bit of trouble with double teams and stuff like that, but they do get pressure on the quarterback. The majority of the time, it's just the consistency of getting pressure on these quarterbacks, and especially with the way the teams throw the ball now, like I said, it's just really tough when you don't get pressure on the quarterback for the secondaries to really hold up against elite passing games that they've seen, and the GSC's filled with them. They have tons of them. Delta State is one of the biggest, is their #1 passing offense in the GSC, and they're very, very impressive. And we saw that last week in the loss. They just couldn't hold up. 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Ken, that's a very bold point. I mean, this defensive line just has failed to, really put pressure. It's these linebackers that we talked about that are doing the most. I mean, they're just kind of just there. They're holding their own. I mean, they're failing to break double teams, to stunt and get around there, and it's just kind of a combination of these linebackers putting pressure on him. But like you said, Virgil, he's not having the year he had last year. I mean, he was a first team all-conference last year, and so I mean, I guess you look at kind of some of the old school defense style they like to do. I mean, they don't really stunt too many times, and they're more of a spreading out, not trying to give up outside containment or anything, and really utilizing this linebacking core. So, I mean, tonight with the running game that the Javelinas have, it'd be interesting to see this defensive line putting any pressure. I mean, only 18 sacks on the year. I mean, they've had 9 games. That's 2 sacks per game. With a 15-minute quarters and usually 70 plays ran per game, only 2 sacks throughout that. And with all the passing that they see in that conference, it's definitely not what it was.
Yeah. Right. And moving to the third level, the secondary has given up only 285 passing yards per game and only 9 interceptions, which is second to last in their conference. What does this say about the third level of their defense?
Ken kind of harped on it a little bit earlier. I mean, they've held their own also. They have given up a lot of yards through the air per game, but looking at their competition, especially with teams like Delta State and who they faced, that's not so bad. I mean, I would say cornerback Dominic Wheeler kind of leads the way there. He's got 4 interceptions, and on the other side of him, Kenny Murphy, he's got 2. So these guys have 6 of their 9 interceptions, and these are the guys that are the headhunter guys also. I mean, they also have some forced fumbles and really have a knack for getting there. But I mean, nothing spectacular with the secondary. I mean, they are holding their own. They're not young by any means. They've played some football. They've got some experience. So I mean, they're keeping them in the ball game for the most part defensively. And I mean, only 285 yards is a lot of yards per game given up passing. But looking at their competition and who they face, not so much.
Yeah, I mean that's been the biggest thing for them, has been just really getting pressure and letting the secondary kind of lock some guys down. But it's been tough for them to lock guys down when you're having trouble getting pressure on a quarterback, and he's got all day to stand back there and just kind of survey the field. So with the elite receivers in their conference, they've done a pretty decent job. But they have kept them in the game for the most part in most of their games. But they also have had some really tough nights where they've lost 51, 52. They've given up 60-plus points in a couple games, and it's been tough for this team this year whenever you see them come back from a year where they won the national championship, and they come back and they just underperform with the seniors that they have, and with a guy like Cochran under center and guys like Pope in the backfield of the defense. It's kind of tough to watch. It's kind of like the Javelinas. You see guys like Robert Armstrong, who's been incredible for his entire career here. You've seen guys like Zane Brown, Mark Sevier, that have just been here and made great strides as players. So we'll see what they get. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, Ken, and talking about that defense and looking at every aspect and breaking it down, it makes me think of the Javelina offense. They've struggled to throw for the most part this year and have been a running style offense. So with that being said, we talked about this linebacking core being their main block of this defense.
Right.
I mean, thinking about that, I think this defense is set up to play a Javelina offense that we've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be the biggest thing.
I think so. I mean, it's that they do give up yards to the air, but the Javelinas aren't known for really giving up a lot of yards.
Yeah.
So I think if they double team and make sure they've got Armstrong covered, have the Javelinas Armstrong covered, I think they might have their way with these linebackers of really maybe shutting down this Javelina offense.
It's a good possibility.
And that's all we have time for. We're going to take our second commercial break. We'll be right back with Pepsi Tailgate Central.
There is a feeling that goes beyond the boundaries of the campus at Texas A&M University Kingsville. A shared sense of pride makes us more than a school. It makes us a nation. The Javelina Nation is a bond that unites all students, faculty, fans, and alumni who have been touched by the oldest, most respected university in South Texas. It's the feeling of knowing you're a part of something larger than yourself. So unite, Javelina Nation. Together there is nothing we cannot do.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. Those we use all the time with hardly a thought. Those that are silently standing by to save our lives. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere we go. Many mobile devices will now bring you wireless emergency alerts, real-time information directly from local sources you know and trust. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know wherever you are.
I'm one unlucky guy. The chance of being involved in a robbery is 1 in 757. The chances of being struck by lightning. 1 in 750,000.
Please fasten your seatbelts for unexpected turbulence.
The chances of being a victim in an airline crash? 1 in 29 million. Hey, could I get some peanuts? The chances of being involved in a car crash are far greater than lightning strikes and plane crashes. And if you are texting while driving, your risk of crash increases 23 times. Now, I may be an unlucky guy, but I don't have to be part of that statistic, and neither do you. Drive responsibly.
Welcome back to Pepsi Tailgate Central. We have talked about their offense and their defense. First off, what are we going to see from their special teams?
Not too much. I mean, on the kicking side of things, they've only attempted 9 field goals this season, which is a field goal per game. 7 of those have been attempted by Anthony Pastelli. He's only made 4 of those, and those have been the only 4 field goals they've made all season. So they've only made 12 points through their kicking game out of 9 kicks. So yeah, 4 for 9 on the season in that aspect. The punting game, not the strongest either. I mean, they do move the ball, so give it to the punter for having some in 20s, but he only has 37 yards per punt. So the kicking game is not too strong.
Yeah, and on the other side of that, the big thing for them in the kick return game has been their defense's inability to really stop some of these defenses. So they don't have a ton of returns by any means, but Willie Downs on both sides, punting and kick return, has been their only guy that's really produced. And in the punt return game, he only has 1 return. He's got 1 return for 62 yards for a touchdown. But the guy that's gotten the most of those is Reginald Lewis. He has 10 returns for 102 yards, no touchdowns. He only has a 39-yard long. But these guys, they really have to pick up the game. And I feel like tonight with the wind and their passing offense, we might not see a whole ton of their kicking game. But with the way that the Javelinas haven't really moved the ball well until these last 2 weeks, we'll see if they come out and stall. But we might see a lot of Downs and Jones on the punting game, Downs and Lewis on the punting game. But in the kick return game, Lewis and Downs have been their only 2 guys to really produce once again. 14 returns for Lewis, 306 yards, no touchdowns, 21 yards average, which that's not terrible. But Downs, on the other hand, 3 returns for 125 yards.
Solid.
He does have a 97-yard touchdown return, which really puts him over the top for any of these guys. He has their 2 returns for a touchdown on the whole season, which is kind of tough when they had quite a few last year. But both of these guys, they're only averaging. Downs is averaging 41, so that 97 was a really good one. But he hasn't had much success beyond that. So we'll see what they can do in the kicking game, returning from the Javelinas tonight.
Now, Ken, what are the keys to victory tonight for their offense?
Well, tonight it's going to be really moving the ball just downfield. It's going to be getting first downs. It's going to be throwing the ball to these 2 big receivers It's going to be moving the ball to these 2 receivers that they have on the outside and really running the ball well with their 2 sophomore running backs. So we'll see what they can do tonight, moving the ball. But that's going to be the biggest thing, not hurting yourself on penalties and just getting the ball downfield, making these big plays. You have 2 guys on the outside that can really make some huge plays, so why not take some chances? I mean, you're already not going to make a bowl game, possibly, with a 3-way split in their conference, but they probably won't. There's probably no chance for that this year, but the thing you have to do is why not take some chances on both sides of the ball. Javelinas haven't won a conference game. There's 7 games that they've lost in a row. Just kind of dismal for them, so why not take some big chances on the outside? Let Robert Armstrong run down the field. Let some of these other guys, C.J. Kriggs, run down the field. see if Bedford's big arm can really make some big plays. So we'll see.
Right, and Denver, what are the keys to victory tonight for their defense?
Well, we talked about the defense holding their own for most of the season. Led by that strong linebacking crew and Pope just being the animal he is. So, the way they like to conduct their defense and handle themselves, I think they're gonna actually do pretty good against Javelinas tonight. Their secondary only has 9 picks and aren't the biggest of playmakers, but they make tackles. And so, looking at the Javelina offense and the lack of passing productivity they've had, look for those cornerbacks to sneak up a little bit and help out that defensive line, help out those linebackers, make plays. So, as the defensive coordinator, I'm definitely stunting a little bit and putting some pressure on the freshman quarterback of Bedford and not allowing the Javelinas to get any type of running game. Make them utilize that passing game and make them try to do something that they're a little weaker at
It'll be
tonight.
quite a difference we've seen in the whole year from them. So we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll
it will be a little bit of a difference, but I think that's something they'll utilize tonight. So.
Oh, well, that's about all we have time for today. Thanks for tuning in to the opposing Valdosta State Blazers. I'm Ashlyn Tovar with Pepsi Tailgate Central.